Now, an alternative to this is to carry out CFD modelling, or like I said before, you've got your test of the wind tunnel to demonstrate that natural ventilators in this case would still work. So you can do a specific CFD analysis of the particular scenario, and if it's successful, you could argue that mechanical ventilation is not required and you can actually just get away with natural ventilation. But the enforcers do have to make sure that the CFD modelling had all the inputs. Yeah, I'll come on to this a bit later on, but you've got to make sure you've got all the inputs. Some CFD modelling appears to show, yeah, that's no problem. Have they put the right inputs in? Is it valid? Is that valid? Sometimes it may be not valid. Now, however, the enforcing body may have concerns, and like I say, they must be confident in the CFD model, as some are a bit suspect. Now, let's look at other problems that may be encountered due to the adverse weather conditions. Well, let's look first of all at these type of ventilators. You've got single flap or the hatch type ventilators where the hinge is at the bottom. Now, these are normally installed into glazing and curtain walling structures at angles between 50 to 90 degrees above the horizontal. Now, you've got two types. You've got vertical and you have inclined installations. Now, the problem with the vertical type is the angle of the opening. If this opening is more than 30 degrees, as you can see here, then the flap of the unit does not protect the aperture of the ventilator, and the result is the system can fail to operate as expected in the system design. Also, wind striking the vertical face of the building above the ventilators may also create turbulent airflow, again affecting the ventilator's effectiveness. Now, another type is the inclined. So the next one is the inclined single flap installation, as you can see here. Now, if the ventilator is located too high on the roof, then it can be adversely affected by the wind. And this can be resolved by placing the ventilator lower down. So remove it, place it lower down, and that should stop the effect it's having. The next issue we have is with single flap dome lights or hatch type ventilators, which are hinged at the top, not at the bottom. Now, the first type is installed at an angle of less than 10 degrees. And in this case, as you can see here, they will generally open to a maximum of 90 degrees. However, even in the horizontal position, they can still allow wind to enter and adversely affect its performance. Now, one solution is to allow it to open to 140 degrees as shown here. As you can see, it doesn't then go in. You don't get any back pressure. It opens to 140 degrees. The next type is hinged at an angle between 10 to 90 degrees. Now, these have real problems, and the only solution is to install a wind direction device. What this does is it opens and closes the appropriate ventilator depending on the prevailing wind conditions. So you've got to have two ventilators depending on which way the wind's coming. Obviously one shuts and one opens to stop that effect. But you've got to have these wind direction devices, as you can see there. Now let's move on to looking at the most common type, which is louvered ventilators. And these are generally installed in two ways. You've got horizontally, and you've got an angle of 30 to 90 degrees. Now, when installed vertically, the direction of the wind can have a major impact on its effectiveness. Therefore, you have to have an adequate number of ventilators of the appropriate size on both sides of the roof and have a wind direction device installed. Now, alternatively, you can install baffles to prevent the wind from affecting the vents, as you can see there. Now, if any ventilators are installed at an angle greater than 30 degrees, as you can see here, the ventilator will not operate as expected and wind may enter the vent, preventing the smoke leaving. So, what can you do? Well, you can install a baffle. A baffle is something that's going to protect that ventilator. And this protects it and it allows it to perform correctly, as you can see there.